Hey, what's up everyone? Morey Croson here, and today we're going to be going over how NFL quarterbacks are able to throw the ball so far, and we'll start the video right now. This is the newest edition of the Performance Lab.
Reach your individual goals. You don't want to just talk about straight line speed. We also want to talk about your ability to be quick. We break down your video. Let's make you into the quarterback I know you can become.
So once again, my name is Morey Croson, and I help quarterbacks from all over the world improve their throwing mechanics, both getting the ball out of their hands faster, as well as being able to throw the ball further, and really help with accuracy as well. And if this is the first time you're watching one of our videos, what we do is break down a lot of the top quarterbacks in the world, as well as give some tutorials on how you can improve your throwing mechanics. So if that's interested you, go ahead and like this video and subscribe to the channel, and we'll hop right into the video. So we have Josh Allen here today. The main thing that we want to be able to see is, and really focus on, is the wrist position. There's a lot that goes into being able to throw the ball far, and really the big difference between NFL quarterbacks and novice quarterbacks is how well they're able to get into a great wrist position, how consistently are they able to get into that wrist position. That's why a lot of times the hand size matters a lot, because it seems to be a lot easier to be able to get into a more advantageous wrist position if you have a bigger wrist. But one of the things that we want to do here at the Performance Lab, and what we do within our programs, is really teach you how to have that elite wrist flick, even if you are undersized, even if you don't necessarily have the big hands, because there is a process behind it. There is a system behind it. You just have to understand what are some of the key points within the throw that really dictate how your throw ends up being. So we'll go over some of those here in Josh Allen. So on the right, and these are obviously both from before he was in the NFL. He might have changed up some of this stuff. I highly doubt it, because when it comes to the best quarterback or the quarterback with the strongest arm in the NFL, there's not really a lot you could change from a wrist position, wrist flick perspective. With that being said, we'll go into it, and really the main thing that we want to see here is just the ability to get to a neutral position, right? So this is the end goal of what we need to get to within the wrist, right? We need to be in a position, and I know you can't see this as good, where you're in a neutral position here, okay? Now there's going to be differences, and we're just going to have to kind of go off of hypotheticals just based off of the video. But what's happening here is we can see he's at a position where he's getting set up. Obviously this one's going to be more of an underneath throw, just throwing on time. With his arm strength, this is a very easy throw for him to complete. So you can see how his load is a lot faster. But a key thing that I like to show guys is that it is kind of a thing that we see with their load is being able to either keep the index finger higher than the pinky finger or even, right? So you can see the pinky finger never gets, or the pinky never gets above the index, right? Or the nose of the football never flies upwards, okay? We're seeing the nose of the football facing down, right? Or straight back, okay? Now, a key thing is this transition phase and being able to maintain a neutral wrist during this transition phase. So what we see is on this one, because the ball's a little bit higher and everything like that, we can see he's getting around very quickly, right? And we could tell that because of the nose of the football. We see a lot of guys that will teach to go like this with the nose of the football, or have your palm facing straight back. Well, when you look to see what the best guys are doing, we just don't see that end up being the situation. A lot of them have more of the palm facing this way, or even turned more so it's facing straight ahead. So when we go through, you can see his palm is not facing backwards here. Even here, it's not facing backwards. It's facing over to the side, right? And so what that means is that they are maintaining a more neutral wrist. When you get back here, then you end up really having a position where the football is going to end up coming on top of the hand, right? And really sitting more into your palm, where when you're getting around the football, you're going to have the wrist in a position where it's more neutral, and your hand's going to be more on top of the football, right? So you're not going to have the nose of the football, or the football in general is not really going to be sitting into the hand as much. Okay, so we're here, and on both of them, he does a little bit later on this one because he loaded a little bit longer, right? And you can see here how he rotates the football. Now, some of the things that stand out to me that he's probably worked on is like that front shoulder position, right? I mean, I don't necessarily mind the step. There's some people that don't want your front hand to be flying away. As recently as last year, I saw him still have some similarities within the mechanics in terms of where he has that front hand going. right? But what is an important part is how fast he's able to get that nose of football behind or around, and how he really doesn't let that football get too far into the midline, right? So if we're going to draw a line down the middle of his spine, he doesn't, I mean, he kind of crosses it a little bit, but not very much. Okay, so that allows him to be able to again, get around the football, okay? And we can see here that nose of the football is facing straight ahead, straight up in the air. Here, he doesn't get that same type of action, so he's throwing more underneath here, but he's still able to get the ball around. So when we look at a underneath throw or something that's a little bit shorter, we see a faster load, let's call it. We see less action out of the front arm. Okay, I'm just going to say front arm position. Okay, and then we also see from a football position, we're going to say that we have a different football angle. Let's just put it like that. Okay, and we'll go into those. Obviously, the faster load, we already saw that, right, with how much more compact we can maybe even say it is, okay? And then again, we can see the front arm, right? See how the front arm, there's not as crazy of an action there. Still consistent with how we're shifting the weight from the back leg onto the front leg, right? That doesn't change in the ability to load into that back foot and then shifting our weight into the front leg. Yeah, there might be more of a shift onto the front leg and there might be a longer step here, but the action ends up still being the same, okay? So we got more front arm action, and I don't want to go into too many different concepts here. And then the last one is going to be the trajectory of the football. So we look to see where the wrist and hand is here and how he's coming more downward on the football here, right? In comparison to here, where the trajectory of the ball, okay, we could see how he got the nose of the football facing straight upwards here, okay? And then while maintaining that wrist position, was then able to get that full extension with more of that nose of the football facing up. Now, what ends up being the big differentiator, though, is getting that wrist all the way around. Again, I know you can't see this as well here, but that ends up being the main thing, right? Because, I mean, you could definitely see it here. I was getting that wrist around, right? And what happens here, a lot of times is I see quarterbacks, they get into this position, right? And they allow that wrist to get stuck back here, right? And end up really trying to drive forward with the elbow and put a ton of extra stress on the arm instead of continuing to get around within that wrist and within the ball in order to really be able to generate the same amount of force within their wrist action, okay? And so many guys talk about the importance of the wrist action, and what I'm really doing here is I'm giving you an understanding of how to be able to get there. Again, I know the video is not as clear as we would want it to be, but this is something that I've been able to work with a lot of quarterbacks, because you could start to see how NFL quarterbacks are really able to put a lot behind the football or have a lot of force behind the football, and it's because of where they get into the wrist position. We see a lot of different ways of how they load the football, how they use their front arm, how they shift their weight, right? There's games where we've seen Aaron Rodgers barely even shift their weight onto his front leg, but still able to throw the ball 50 yards. How does he do it? He has the correct understanding, correct mechanisms necessary within the arm, within the shoulder, within the wrist to really be able to maximize the throw. At the end of the day, that is what's going to get you there. There's a great amount of things that you can do within hip and shoulder disassociation and within, all this other stuff that ends up being critical, right? But what is very, very hard to measure, I know this because I work with some really high-end technology myself, it's very hard to measure wrist because the wrist is moving so fast. And so as much as the hip and shoulder separation ends up being a big thing, and I don't disagree with the importance of that, at the end of the day, the most important thing from a purely visual perspective would be the wrist, right? And really, it's a visual perspective and a achievement perspective, which just means that the people that are able to do it at a high level, again, Aaron Rodgers, you got Russell Wilson, you have Josh Allen, you have Patrick Mahomes, they all talk about how important it is to have a great wrist flick and how that ends up being an important thing. And those are the guys that are playing in the NFL, right? So there's one side of it of people, and we see this within sprinting as well, where there's people that want to have all of the data behind it and all the information, and that's great. I love looking at data myself, but there's also the application. There's also the achievement. And so if you can actually listen to what they say, The wrist is important, and I even agree with that as well. And I think if you even thought about it, like when you go and you see some quarterbacks that have a great ability to throw the ball far with a lot of velocity, right? Not even an NFL quarterback, just go to a camp, right? Or maybe somebody that you're competing with. They have a unique way of how the ball comes out of their hands. The wrist or the ball just leaves their hands. They're able to utilize their wrist in a way that is unique and it stands out. And that's what I want to be able to teach you. That's what my programs are all about. You can check it in the description down below. That's my main thing, right? Is I teach you how to be able to get your wrist into this position, in that C position, instead of into the U position. And if you can understand how important that is and conceptualize the importance of that, then but you're not able to achieve it, then my programs are going to really, really help you out and will help you very, very quickly, right? I'm big on you seeing results very fast. I don't want you to have a long time to be able to make these changes. My goal is to make it so you have these changes immediately, and the way to be able to do that is 1, join the program, and 2, send in film, do the exercises, practice on the things that we are talking about. And if you do those 2 things, you'll see massive improvements within your throw, and you'll see it in amazing amounts of time. So again, thanks for watching. If you haven't clicked that thumbs up yet, go ahead and click that real quick. That really helps us out a ton, as well as subscribe if you're not subscribed already. We have a large amount of people that watch these videos that are not subscribed. I highly recommend you do it. And then even more so, the best thing you could do if you're watching this video still, sign up for the program and we'll get you better very quickly. Thanks for watching. Talk to you soon.